What's up, you mutts? It's another edition of the Kevin Clancy Show. It's the 1 Minute Man KFC Barstool coming at you. Today we got Frankie Borelli on the show. It's another edition of Behind the Blog here at Barstool Sports. So if you've been following along for a couple of years, you know that like every month or so, I sit down with one of the personalities at Barstool Sports and we do a deep dive interview. And we get to the bottom of everything about them, how they ended up at Barstool, how they grew up, who they are, where they're from. And today is Frankie Borelli. You know him as Dave Portnoy's guy. He's the dude behind the camera during all of Dave Portnoy's pizza reviews. All right, Frankie, he's the Frankie. He is Frankie Borelli III. His father is Frankie Borelli II, Frankie Borelli Jr., who is the owner and manager of Borelli's restaurant in Long Island. It's a family restaurant that they've been in business for like 65 years. So we went out to Borelli's. We sat down. We broke some bread. We had a conversation. Tears were shed, laughs were had, and there was a lot of insight on how a guy like Frankie, who, let's call it like it is, was a college dropout who was, kind of ready to just work at his family restaurant and deliver some pizzas and make some pizzas, and how he turned that into much more. It's a great interview for the average guy or girl because. And I don't think I really got a chance to articulate this at any point in the interview because at one point, Frankie's dad joins us and it becomes very emotional. And it was a very nice send off. So we just kind of ended the interview there. And there was still a few points I wanted to make. And that's that Frankie is so much smarter than I think he ever gave himself credit for until he got to Barstool. And while you'll have to watch the interview to understand that's his story specifically, I think there's a larger discussion to be had for what it takes to make it in this world. Like knowing Frankie now, he is like this funny dude who's dynamic and can read a room and understands the situation and knows how to timing on jokes and conversations, and he knows how to behave when he's in a room full of fucking executives with Dave Portnoy, or a room full of models, or hanging out with the boys. So he's smart, he's quick, he's savvy. And I think prior to coming to Barstool, he probably would have talked down on himself. He does. You could hear it in this interview. He's very much like myself. He's half Irish, so he's got that Irish Catholic guilt in him, where it's like, I'm an idiot. I'm just an average nobody. Who am I? Can't take a compliment, that sort of thing. And I think, when he was 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, he was probably who am I? I'm just Frankie Borelli. I'm going to make some pizzas, from Long Island. I'm just going to, deliver pizzas, do the family business, and, pay my taxes and one day die. Because who am I? And then he got this opportunity. And I think you learn when you're around Frankie that he's so much more than that. I think he's one of the funniest fucking guys at the whole company. I think he could join my show and my podcast tomorrow. I think he could do a 1 Minute Man series type of thing. I think he's that sharp and witty and understanding and a cut above everybody else. And I'm so happy that he got the chance to come here and to see that side of himself. And even if he doesn't admit it in the interview, I think there has to be some acknowledgement on some level that he was more than what he ever thought he was going to be. And I think there's so many people like that now, where it's there used to be so many barriers of entry to achieve something, to get to a certain level, to get a certain job, to make a certain amount of money, to get a certain level of fame. It used to be you had to go to a certain school, you had to get certain grades, you had to know certain people, and all of that sort of gatekeeper shit. And I think all of that's gone now. I think you still have to have, a wild amount of talent and drive and determination, but with the advent of, the internet and your phone and the ability to just reach people and do what you do best. And if there's an audience for it, you will grow. If there's a market for it, there will be money to be made. And I think the first thing you got to do though, is just give yourself it sounds so corny, but it's you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe you can do it. And when I watched a guy like Frankie, if Frankie Borelli, who can become Dave Portnoy's right-hand man, who could become 1/3 of the biggest golf podcast on the planet, who could become one of the funniest guests on my podcast I've ever had, who could become one of the most notable and trustworthy and reliable and funny personalities at the biggest, fastest growing juggernaut media company, you know, that's like maybe ever existed. If he was a guy who was like, nah, man, not me. Like I ain't got shit, you know, I'm nobody. It's like, well, fucking Christ, man. Not even that guy gave himself enough credit. So I wonder how many more people out there are thinking, you know, I ain't shit either. And it's like, and maybe you don't end up being right-hand man to a future billionaire, but there's money to be made and like moves to be made. And you don't have to just kind of like fall in line and live that, like just float through life sort of shit. Like, I'll do whatever my dad did. I'll do whatever my family expects me to do. I don't get good grades. I didn't go to a good school, so I am not good. It's like none of that shit fucking matters anymore. As a matter of fact, I think the people who follow that traditional path is just so like cliche and boring, and played out now. I think it's so much more interesting to find the people who are making their own way, who are just like, fuck it, I'm not going to waste money on school, time on class, things. And if those things are good for you and that's what you need, then like, oh, by all means do it. But there's just so many more avenues now, so many less barriers of entry that you got to do it, but only if you're like going to give yourself a shot. And when I hear Frankie kind of talking down on himself, or even to this day being like, I don't even deserve this. It's like, yes, you fucking do, dude. You maybe more than anybody, with the amount of shit that you put up with, and how much you like gave to Dave and Barstool, and like, yeah, man, you fucking deserve it. And I think a lot of other people out there deserve whatever their Barstool is. Like Frankie wanted to work for Barstool, he deserved it. He just didn't know it, or wouldn't allow himself to feel it or believe it. Whatever your Barstool is, whatever you like, you can fucking go do it now, man. Like there is, I know from like just doing what I did, like, I mean, I guess I'm kind of like gonna be Frankie in this, like kind of contradict myself, but I truly mean that there is nothing special about me. I am like the most average, middle of the road dude there has ever been. I think actually that's why I am successful. I think I am so elite at being medium, at being middle, at being average. There's never been a more middle of the road person than me. I know Nate Bargatze just put his new special out, The Greatest Average American. And I know where he's coming from, but like, let's face it, Nate Bargatze is one of the most talented comedians that has ever lived. There ain't nothing average about that dude. But his personality and his style and his lifestyle and who he is very average. Like I am average, bro. And that's the only thing that saves me. But because of this world right now and the way it is, it's like I got in a little bit early, got in when I could blog. You know, I started like 12 years ago, when before the social media craze, when it was more about you had to go to a website, go to a URL and read someone's work. And I was like, that's the one place I think I'm above average, is writing. And that's how I got in. So everything after that was just like, I am not that funny, but I'm not that funny. I'm not that dynamic person. I'm not that fireworks on camera. I'm not that. I'm just enough. I'm just enough where I think the average person is like, oh, that sounds like me, or that's what I was thinking, or whatever, which is why I find it in the same breath as so let me rewind. There was a point in time, probably like 2000, maybe let's call it 11. I started blogging in 08 for my own site. I got called up to Barstool in like 09. So right away I was at Barstool, and probably by like 2011 was when I really got comfortable, where I was like, every take that I give on the internet, I can almost guarantee that the majority of people, or enough people, agree with me that I'll always be good. I would pick a blog topic and my angle would be like, fuck this, it's not funny. And most people would agree with me, or enough people would be like, yes, that's right. Or this is really funny, and they would agree. Or watch this guy, I hate him, I want him to lose. Me too. And I at the same time as garnering enough support for everything I said, I was also very polarizing, where there are people who vehemently disagree with me. And I think because of, I don't know, I'm just like a loudmouth New Yorker, and I'm very stubborn, that Irish Catholic stubbornness, where I just like, fuck you, I'm right, you're wrong. We talk loud, we talk fast, and we're always right. There was enough people when they disagreed with me from other parts of the country and other walks of life, they'd be like, no, fuck you, I hate you, which I think is like the best combination. You have the people who ride with you, who agree with you and agree with everything you're saying and that whole persona. And then you have the people who hate it. There's no indifference anywhere, you know? So you got enough people who love you and enough people who hate you, where there's always just then these two sides fight, and there's always attention, and there's always clicks and likes and retweets and all that shit, comments, and this whole thing grows. That's how I would guess the blueprint for me works, which is why I can't figure out what has happened in this world. I don't know whether I do know. I think I figured it all out. I think it's all the internet is to blame for all the good and all the bad in the world right now. Because when I look at the last week or so, everything ties to one thing and points back to one thing. I'm looking at the Chrissy Teigen story. Chrissy Teigen retired from Twitter because she went through her miscarriage and she's been getting sober, and the internet and Twitter specifically has just been like so nasty to her. And she is someone who's even more polarizing, where people really fucking hate her. And they're all of a sudden, it went from like, I don't like Chrissy Teigen because she's rich and I'm not, or like she thinks she's hot shit and I don't think she is, or I don't agree with her politics, to I think that she's a pedophile who eats children. I'm like, bro, what? Like you mean to tell me if I hook you up to like a lie detector test, if I hook these people up, if I could give them truth serum, hit them with that Wonder Woman lasso, which by the way is just preposterous. The fact that Wonder Woman's magical power, superpower, is that she has a rope that makes you tell the truth. I mean, is that not the most cliche female shit you ever seen? Like when they finally sat down in like, I don't know, the 50s or 60s, or whenever the fuck Wonder Woman was invented, they were like, all right, we need a female. We need a chick. What is it that if every girl could have a superpower, what would it be? Like to make men tell them the truth, to get boys to stop lying to them. That's the one thing they gave Wonder Woman, not strength or speed or mind control or time travel. It's like, no, boys are going to tell her the truth every time she wants to hear the answer. Anyway, if I could hit those people with truth serum, you're telling me they really believe that Chrissy Teigen eats children? Because so I got in a fight with that toothless chick. There was this chick with no teeth on Twitter and Instagram who was like, Casey, you've been canceled. You're canceled because you like Chrissy Teigen. And Chrissy Teigen, she puts up pictures of her naked baby on her refrigerator. You're going to support that? I'm like, that's your fucking evidence? Is that Chrissy Teigen has pictures of like her babies when they're naked? Like literally everyone has naked pictures of when they're babies, when they're in the tub or they're getting out of the pool or you're changing their diaper or they're just running around naked. It's like, that's why you think that she fucking is a pedophile? She has some tweets about toddlers and tiaras. It's like, yeah, that show is super creepy. It's super popular, so people watch it. And it's ultimately creepy that you're watching little girls parade around. And she commented on that weird dynamic. That makes her, I mean, it was just like when I learned that there really is a sect of the internet that truly believes that. And I'm not talking about the deep, dark corners. I'm talking about people who follow me. People who are like stoolies, I would think, who follow Barstool, watch 1 Minute Man, watch a pizza review, like find themselves in the middle of the pack, who are like, yeah, no, Chrissy Teigen, reptile, child eater, pedophile. Are you fucking serious? And then I watched this QAnon doc, QAnon Into the Storm, HBO. It's every Sunday night, 9:00. And I thought on this show, it's going to be perfect. I'm a conspiracy guy. I'm a tinfoil hat guy. I love to talk about what we think is going on beneath the surface, what's really going on with the government and the elite. And, you know, there's always a buck to be made and an angle to exploit. And when there's blood in the streets, someone's making money and making moves. I love all that shit. And I look at QAnon, I'm like, this is the dumbest fucking bullshit I've ever seen. And I used to even kind of tiptoe around that. This past year, I think I learned, like, when George Floyd happened, when the riots happened, when COVID happened, all this shit. But you have to be very careful because you voice certain opinions and you lose audience and you lose money, but you have to stay true to yourself and say what you believe. And it's this whole dance where it's like, I find myself to be very down the middle politically, like, and I know that there are people who on both sides who are passionate, who I like respect their opinions and want them to be fans and want their business. And And I've come to the conclusion that that's not what these fucking loser freaks at QAnon are. Like, if you really believe in QAnon, get the fuck out. You can get the fuck out. You don't have to download my shit. You don't have to follow me. You don't have to watch me. You don't have to buy my merch. I do not need your support in any way. Do not want it. Do not need it. Goodbye. Like, there is such a stark difference between a normal ass, intelligent conservative and these fucking loser morons who claim to be QAnon, who claim to be, you know, this political party who's like saving the world. I mean, I thought this documentary, as I've been calling them, this dude at Barstool, Rudy, he told me that he pronounces documentary to sound important. And ever since then, I can't get it out of my brain. Documentary sounds like how they say like advertisement or aluminium over in like England or the UK or Canada. Start saying it, documentary. You say that to your friends and don't like correct yourself or anything. Just be like, oh, I'm watching this documentary. And they will be like, well, who the fuck is this guy? Shit. This guy must know something I don't. I thought I was going to watch this documentary and we were going to learn like who's behind. And it's only 2 episodes into 6. So maybe we will. But I thought we were going to learn who is behind QAnon and how did this person posting on the internet garner such power and such a following. And all I've seen 2 episodes in is a bunch of fucking internet losers. I mean, the prototypical cliche, old, beaten to death stereotype of bloggers and internet nerds. Like, we're talking about guys who live in the basement, live with their mom, what do they call them? Incels, involuntary celibates, like never been laid, don't have any friends, mad at the world. They have little man syndrome. Like, these guys are fucking assholes. These guys are losers. They're stupid. You're like, I am now. And so my point being that where I used to want, I wanted to be careful. Like, I have my opinions and I always got to spit them, but I really don't want to lose your business if you lean one side or the other. And now I'm like, oh no, I don't give a fuck about you. If you truly believe that Chrissy Teigen is a pedophile who eats kids, if you truly believe in the reptilian overlords, if you truly believe in Pizzagate. And that's not to say, like I said, I am a full-blown conspiracy guy. I do believe that there are plenty of pedophiles in the upper echelon of the world. I believe, you know, the problem with everything with QAnon is Epstein was true. And when one thing became true, everything became true. And I think people with a fucking brain can discern between like, no, this guy who there was always like smoke and there was always fire and they finally made a charge stick and then he mysteriously disappeared. That's very different than just the ramblings of an internet storyteller that is like 50% right, 50% wrong, and you pick and choose, and you are a dumb, ignorant fucking asshole if you follow this bullshit and believe it. And I can't believe it's even like, I'm like, I have to say this. I can't believe it's even something where it's like, I have to declare it because it's like, yeah, no fucking kidding. Look at these dickheads. Look at these inbred morons. And people are like tiptoeing around them like, well, you know, we don't want to say anything too political here. Like, this has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with straight up common sense. These people are fucking dicks. And then that bled into the Lil Nas X thing, which skews much more religious than it does political. But the fact that there are people out there who genuinely believe that Lil Nas X is a devil worshiper who like would subscribe to the, you know, the dark tenets of Satanism, like, you know, believing in death and destruction and like, bro, this guy is an entertainer. He's a 21-year-old like Gen X internet troll who wants to be famous and viral and rich. And just like every other act before him, whether it's Slayer and Ozzy Osbourne, when he and Black Sabbath, when he was in the band, and Marilyn Manson. I said this all in 1 minute, man. Those are people who are just like counterculture, against the man, want to make you clutch your pearls and freak out, want to be edgy and rebellious. And so they go to the ultimate lengths and they have the tattoos with the pentagrams and the horns and the devil. And it's like, yeah, what's the most extreme badass thing I can do? Be like, you know, be like the devil. It's like Lil Nas X has proven that he's like this flamboyant gay guy who likes fashion and like dancing and fucking sex. And like, if anything, he's like the furthest from that. And the same people I'm seeing if you believe that Chrissy Teigen eats people, and you actually believe in the ramblings of QAnon, and you believe that Lil Nas X is actually a devil worshiper who's going to take down the world, like, you are all below average, well below average, unintelligent assholes who have one thing in common. And that's what I said. I figured it all out. It's just the goddamn internet. It's just that the internet has connected all of the dumb people in the world and emboldened them and given them a voice and a platform. And now we have to fucking deal with it. It's the godforsaken internet, the worldwide fucking web, which, like, if you used to, if there was one person in your life who had shades of QAnon, you'd be like, oh, that's like my alcoholic aunt or uncle. That's like my bipolar cousin. That's my mentally ill teacher. Those are the assholes of the world that I'm going to cut out of my life as soon as I can do so. And with the internet, yeah, that alcoholic teacher links up with that bipolar cousin who links up with your, drug addicted, meth head, poor, poverty stricken aunt and uncle. And together they form a fucking band. They're like the homeless, degenerate, decrepit Captain Planet. It's like wind, fire, heart. Remember that? It's like drug addiction, bipolar disorder, gambling addiction, racism. When our powers combined, we are Captain Planet. We are Captain QAnon. Like, you dumb motherfuckers. And I can't believe for so long, like, and maybe I'm late. Maybe, I don't want to say that. It's not to say that like anybody was really legitimizing QAnon and like worried about, like, I don't want to upset them. But I do think that there was this, like, there's these blurred lines for a little while between like Republicans and conservatives and QAnon, where it's like, you can be a Trump supporter, and if you had a brain and understood what you were talking about, and you were anti some of the democratic principles and standards, and that's why you were voting conservative, and you thought that Trump was going to do this, that, and the other thing, like, fine, I get it. I think in this case it didn't work out for you, but I can understand where you were coming from. And on the other side, if you're a Democrat and you have a brain that functions, and you can understand where sometimes the bleeding heart liberal foo-foo bullshit where everything is free and nobody has to pay for anything and everything is just magically going to be perfect, like, you can realize that's patently ridiculous too. All of the shit's preposterous. And we're all the normal people are somewhere in the middle. I can get down with any of that. It's the extremes. And I think we have, I would hope that we have now learned that anybody who believes these things and voices this shit on social media and QAnon and all that, it's like, get out of my fucking face. I have to deal with it every day. Did you see the comments on 1 Minute Man, what they're saying about your video? Like, yeah, did the toothless fucking hillbilly inbreds who are actually like mentally challenged based on their IQ, did I see what they had to say? No, I don't fucking care anymore. Used to be a time where getting people on social media and people on the internet were kind of like hip to the latest shit. You know what I mean? They were kind of cutting edge. They were the people who were going to download the new app, the people who were going to be on Twitter back in 2009, the people who were going to download Instagram first, the people who are going to use TikTok, all these shit. Usually that first wave is all people who are like techie and internet nerd and young and savvy and all that shit. And it got to the point where the internet just grew so big that the way, the way that Facebook became the punchline, like, your grandma and your aunt are over there arguing about fake headlines and stupid memes and QAnon jokes on Facebook. Well, that became everything. That's everywhere now. That's Twitter. That's Instagram. That's all the apps that it used to be like just for old people on Facebook. That's everywhere now. And maybe it's just me realizing it because I, am lost in that world. Maybe I'm the only one coming to the conclusion now, but I feel like there's a lot of people out there who still don't realize that like 9 out of 10 people that you talk to on the internet are like dumb fucking assholes. They are the anti-Frankie Borrellis of the world. They are the people who not only they don't go to school, they don't have the teaching, they don't have the understanding, and they don't have the inherent intelligence and awareness and all the shit that like successful people do. And this week, just it all like came, like it all crystallized, where it was like, you make a video about Chrissy Teigen, you make a video about Lil Nas X, you're watching this QAnon doc, and everything you're talking about, you're realizing it's like, oh my God, wait a minute. Every single one of these people is a dumb motherfucker. Oh, like shit. And I see them, and this is the hallmark of them. When they disagree with you, they say, bad take, bro. Bad take. Swing and a miss on this one, bro. No, man, we just disagree. And I promise you, I'm a lot smarter than you. And like I said, that's not to do with me. I'm the most average person in the world. Average intelligence, average awareness, average understanding, average brain power. And I promise you, I'm still infinitely smarter than you, because you have proven out right here on this app, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on this, on that, on comments, on feedback, on DMs, that you are an uninformed, uneducated fucking moron who has lived a miserable life up until this point, miserable existence. And you need to hang your hat on something, whether it be a preposterous religion, a preposterous story from the Bible, a preposterous thing from the religion you believe in, or a preposterous political party that has been fabricated from an internet forum, or a dumb urban legend that about the celebrity that you hate the most. You have to hang your entire hat, your entire existence on it, because otherwise you got fucking nothing. You have no other way to describe why your life stinks so goddamn much, while other people have relatively happy lives. While average people, when I'm talking about the elite, the fancy rich people of the world, of course they live better than you because they're smarter than you and they're more successful than you. But the average people, like they're not even more talented than you. They just have a brain. They just know how the relatively normal world functions. They're going to be more successful than you because you are a fucking asshole, and a dumb one at that. And so you latch on to these fairy tales and these stories and these things that you can't prove true, but you worship a 2,000-year-old guy, or you worship a fucking internet handle on a forum, all so that you can keep going with your miserable ass life. Because I know deep down, if I asked you, you'd have to admit that you're just believing complete fucking nonsense. You're either mentally ill and you believe it's true, or you're incredibly stupid and you believe it's real, or you're somewhere in the middle where you're just being an ignorant asshole and refusing to admit what is basic common sense. So that's the internet for you. It's like Homer Simpson used to say about beer. It's here's to alcohol, the cause of and the solution to and the cause of all of life's problems. That's the internet for me. The internet giveth and the internet taketh. The internet's going to make me very wealthy one day. The internet has allowed me to get out of the cubes. The internet has allowed me to make a podcast and a video series and sell merch and do all these wildly cool things that my average ass self never would have been able to do. The internet's allowed me to not be a bum ass accountant for the rest of my life. The internet's allowed me to meet great people, and my kids are going to be set one day because the internet. I've met pretty girls and great people and had great times and met celebrities and gone to events, all the shit that the internet has completely made possible. It's also enabled the dumbest, most destructive, annoying, ignorant assholes on the planet to like have a voice and bother like normal people on a regular basis. It's fucking crazy. And so on one end of the spectrum, you have those assholes. And on the other, I think I just set a record for the number of times I said assholes, dickheads, cocksuckers, whatever your flavor is there, insert the Mad Libs. And on the other side, you got a guy like Frankie Borelli, a dude who is the opposite of all those things. A guy who is self-aware, a guy who is situationally aware, a guy who knows exactly who he is and who he's not. Even if he doesn't admit who he is and what his talents are, somewhere deep down, he knows him. He knows what he's capable of because he went out there and he did it. And he built a fucking pizza empire with Dave Portnoy. And he built a golf podcast empire with Riggs and Trent, and one of just like the funniest dudes out there. And what's really interesting, and you'll hear it in this interview, is it didn't start with Barstool. Barstool's where it came out. Barstool's where it took it and it magnified it and it like multiplied it exponentially. But he tells a couple stories in the beginning where you can see from the jump when he was in school and when he was working at the restaurant that like he always had it in him to like take things to the next level. He just linked up with the right people who opened the doors to that level. And that's really what life is all about, right? It's like taking your skills what you can do and what you can offer, and just finding the right place to magnify it. Because that's the saddest thing in life, is wasted potential, whatever, right? You can have all the potential in the world. You don't find the right company, the right team, the right job, the right partner, whatever, to like show it, express it, do it, actualize it. And, it kind of goes wasted. But in this case, like, the perfect personality met with the perfect job at the perfect time in life. And like I always say, when I do these behind the blogs, the story of Barstool, the big picture story and every individual story, it's all about timing. It's all about serendipity. It's all about talent, for sure. But the timing of when these people find their way and what they bring to the table and how they do it, when they do it, where they do it, it's all kind of, it's not chance, but it is more serendipity. It's not totally up to luck, because there's a lot of hard work that goes into it too. But there's always a huge element of luck and just the right break going your way at the right time and being ready for it. And Frankie embodies that better than anyone. So behind the blog here on the Kevin Clancy Show, you can also watch it over on the YouTube channel, which as much as I want you to download the podcast and listen to the show, watching it, it's shot wonderfully by Nick and Jackie and my boy Steve over on Snapchat. Multiple cameras, high definition, multiple angles and zoom ins. You catch Frankie and his dad crying, and some B-roll of me throwing pizzas in the air. So it's a really like premium product that I think you should watch. So if you head over to the KFC Radio YouTube, you can watch it. And as a matter of fact, while I got you here, and I'm saying that, I've been pushing it on Twitter and Instagram, and I've mentioned it here, but I do want to just formally say, because I really don't try to ask too much of the audience. I'm always like, I put out what I put out, and if you like it, you fuck with it, and if you don't, you don't. And I'm never gonna like ask you to do too much. But I am in a place where 1 Minute Man has been so successful on Instagram. It's the first time I really had something that's like lightning in a bottle, or like taking off, or like, wow, this is fucking successful. This is what really like going viral and really clicking is like. And on top of that, I've had, podcasts that I've had for like 10 years. I've had this podcast, which I've done for several years on and off, and all these other pieces of content. And they're all at this point on multiple platforms and all throughout. And it's unfortunate that you can't just get it all in one place, in one easy spot, because I got to ask you to follow me here on Instagram and follow me on Twitter and subscribe on this and listen on that. So it's a lot, but it still isn't, it's really not all that much from your guys' point of view. So, I mean, at this point, 1 Minute Man every day is on Instagram, and that seems to be successful and taking off. And most people have an Instagram account, and they're happy to follow who they follow and watch what they watch. But we also put it every day on YouTube. And I think there's a certain ages of people that use YouTube and will gladly subscribe. And then there are people who are probably my primary demographic who don't really use YouTube, but I need those subscriptions. So if you have a Gmail account, you can use the same login and password on Gmail, and you can log into YouTube. I need you to subscribe to the KFC Radio YouTube and the Kevin Clancy Show. If I need you to subscribe to the KFC Radio YouTube and the Kevin Clancy YouTube. It's KFC, Barstool, Kevin Clancy. That's going to have 1 Minute Man. That's going to have this podcast. So, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the videos on YouTube, and it just goes such a long way. For years, super producer BC, my brother and producer, told me, like, you have to tell people to rate and review your podcast, give 5 stars, leave a review. And I never did it because I was like, it's annoying. It's so annoying. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to do that. Everyone just wants to listen. And if it's going to be successful, it's going to be successful. And then I realized that you can have a wildly good product and people really do love it. But if they don't follow and click and do the right things, the platforms and the algorithms and the metrics, they'll never fucking know. So the only time I'm ever really going to ask anything of you, and really just do a favor for me, go to YouTube, subscribe to KFC Radio, subscribe to Kevin Clancy, KFC Barstool, the podcast you can subscribe to on the podcast app or in Google Play, just anywhere, I'm putting out content, or you see me or my team, we need you to click follow or click subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. I don't think I realized, I knew it was important, but I think this year is when I realized like just how much, if you don't get those views and like click thumbs up, leave the comments, all of these things, you could have a zillion people watching, but if all they do is watch and they don't actually, click the buttons or join the pages, subscribe, whatever the fucking actionable thing is. It makes it that much harder to grow up and blow up. So do your boy a favor, subscribe on all these channels for me, specifically the YouTube, because that's where we need to be. And let me just say, for fucking just for my own peace of mind, your boy was on YouTube 10 years ago when he started the podcast. People tell me, why are you so late to the game? I wasn't, okay? My original podcast was on fucking YouTube, and I wanted to just continue to grow it there. And they told me to focus on podcasts because podcast was going to be the big thing, which I was okay with because I was all on board a podcast too. But I said, why not also have a video offering on YouTube? Nope, can't do that. And then we were told no YouTube at all. And I could have been fucking growing these YouTube pages for the last 10 years, but whatever. Business is business. We had these things ebb and flow. We had certain things to focus on. Fine. I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. It's fine. But just know, if it would have been up to me, I would have been on YouTube this whole time. My subscription numbers would have been big enough, and I wouldn't have to do this fucking internet panhandling. You know how demoralizing it is. Frankie, we'll get to you in a second, but it is so demoralizing to just sit here and have to ask for it. Because the beauty of Barstool is, as we got bigger, the platform got bigger, and it was always like, hey, watch this video, and thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people would. Millions upon people would read and follow and click and views. It was always just like, when we asked Stoolies to do something, they all did it. That's why we dominate the world. That's why we drive every other fucking outlet crazy, because our views and our followers and our listeners and everything is just that much bigger than them. And then there's fucking YouTube, the last frontier for Barstool for some reason. It's the easiest one that's been around the longest for everyone else. Everyone else, YouTube subscribers out there, fucking asshole. For us, we ask the Stoolies, we ask the listeners, the views on the viewers of 1 Minute Man, all these people who will fuck with us everywhere else. And they're just like, nah, I don't want to do that. And I get it, because I'm not a huge YouTube user either, and I'm not the biggest subscriber either. But I made a point once I learned the importance of it. It's like, all right, I fuck with this guy, I'm going to follow that. I'm going to subscribe. I follow her, I'm going to subscribe. So do your boy a favor, subscribe, and let's check it out now. Frankie Borelli, behind the blog on the Kevin Clancy Show.